The studio was filled with the usual cheerful buzz that comes with a live morning broadcast. Warm lights glowed across the stage, the audience clapped along to the music, and the energy felt friendly and relaxed. Sitting together at the desk were Jenna Bush Hager and Sheinelle Jones, ready to welcome their guests and share another lively conversation. From the very beginning, it was clear the mood was playful. Jenna leaned toward Sheinelle before the segment even properly began and whispered something that instantly made Sheinelle laugh. The microphones caught just enough of it to spark curiosity, and the audience chuckled along. Whatever had been planned as a simple discussion already felt more like friends chatting over brunch. Their guests joined them, smiling politely, prepared to talk about their latest project. But the moment introductions ended, Jenna excitedly jumped in with a story connected to the topic. Sheinelle added her own memory immediately after, and before anyone realized it, the hosts were bouncing off each other's energy. The guests tried to respond, they really did, but Jenna reacted to Sheinelle's comment, Sheinelle reacted to Jenna's reaction, and suddenly everyone was laughing again. It wasn't awkward, it was chaotic in the most human way possible. One guest finally began answering a question, only for Sheinelle to gasp dramatically halfway through, remembering something she absolutely had to share. Jenna covered her face laughing, apologizing while also asking another question at the same time. The audience loved it. The guests laughed too, though they gently waited for a pause that never seemed to last long. Every time silence appeared, one of the hosts filled it with a new thought or playful observation. At one point, Jenna jokingly admitted, "We promise we invited you here for a reason," which made everyone laugh harder, including the guests. Sheinelle added, "We just get excited when the conversation is good." The chemistry between them felt less like an interview and more like two longtime friends accidentally hosting a show while catching up. They didn't interrupt to dominate, they interrupted because they genuinely enjoyed each other's company and forgot the cameras were rolling. The guests eventually found their rhythm by leaning into the humor. Instead of waiting for a perfectly formal question, they started responding inside the laughter, turning the conversation into a group exchange rather than a traditional Q&A. And that's when the segment really found its charm. Stories overlapped, jokes bounced around the table, and even the audience became part of it, reacting like they were sitting in the room with friends instead of watching a structured broadcast. Jenna confessed she sometimes gets carried away when she's interested in what someone is saying. Sheinelle nodded, admitting she has the same habit, especially when the topic connects to real life. One guest teased that they had never worked so hard just to finish a single sentence, and the entire studio erupted in laughter again. Rather than feeling excluded, the guests seemed to enjoy the unpredictability. They began playfully raising their hands before speaking, which Jenna dramatically approved as the official talking rule. Sheinelle pretended to enforce it like a classroom teacher for about 5 seconds before breaking it herself. The moment turned into a running joke. Every time someone spoke for more than a few seconds, the others applauded jokingly as if they had accomplished something heroic. Between the laughter, the guests did share their story, just in pieces, woven between humor and spontaneous reactions. Strangely enough, it made the discussion feel more memorable. Viewers weren't just hearing prepared answers, they were watching personalities interact. Later, Jenna reflected that sometimes the best conversations aren't perfectly timed. Real discussions overlap, friends talk over each other, excitement doesn't wait politely for silence. Sheinelle agreed, saying she never wants guests to feel like they're reciting lines. She prefers moments where everyone forgets the format and simply connects. The guests nodded, admitting they actually felt relaxed because the atmosphere wasn't stiff or rehearsed. Instead of pressure, they felt welcomed into a circle of laughter. The audience responded warmly, not because the segment was orderly, but because it was genuine. As the conversation wrapped, Jenna thanked the guests for their patience. Sheinelle joked they deserved an award for navigating the world's most enthusiastic interview. One guest replied they'd gladly come back, but next time they might bring a bell to ring whenever they wanted a turn to speak. Jenna laughed and said she would probably ring it herself first. Sheinelle promised nothing. The show moved on, yet the light-hearted tone lingered. The moment became memorable not for what was said perfectly, but how naturally everyone interacted. In a world of carefully timed television, sometimes the most charming scenes happen when timing falls apart, when laughter interrupts questions, and stories unfold in unexpected ways. And maybe that's why viewers enjoy mornings like this. Not because every sentence lands cleanly, but because real conversations rarely do. If you appreciate television moments where personalities shine brighter than scripts, where laughter matters more than perfect pacing, and where guests become part of the fun rather than just part of the schedule, then you understand why these spontaneous exchanges stay in people's minds long after the episode ends. Because sometimes the most memorable conversations aren't the ones that go exactly as planned, they're the ones that feel like real life.